Hey guys, it's Thomas here, and we got something coming. And it always makes me a little nervous when we have things like this coming because big, heavy things can be hard to get in place. So if you're not already aware, we've got a new mega build we're starting, and I'm a little bit nervous, just a little bit nervous. So it's gonna be going here. It's a really big tank. It's bigger than the 265. So if you remember the 265, I was panicking, pulling things off of the wall, taking doors off hinges and stuff to try to make room. This tank is technically bigger. Not longer, but bigger. So anyways, it's gonna stick out pretty far, probably about out to here, about 30 inches off the wall. It's gonna come out about 80 inches and stop somewhere around here. And the stand itself is pretty tall. I'm hoping it'll be smooth, but if you can imagine, we've got a skinny little hallway here that we have to bring it down. And to make matters worse, this little area we have to maneuver in to get it down the hall we just came through. There's the front door. I've already pulled everything off the wall. We had like a coat rack and everything up there, all the shoe racks and stuff, that's all gone to try to make room for this. I don't think I'll have to take the door off the hinges, but if I do, I'm just gonna pull it right off. I'm not messing around. So it's gonna be a little bit hectic. It's a little bit stressful. I've got friends, my neighbors, thankfully, are willing to give me a hand. Brian behind the camera is gonna be giving me a hand. And we're gonna see if us four not burly men are gonna be, well, Brian's bigger than I am, are gonna be able to bring this tank down here with just the four of us. The glass is super heavy. I think it's in and around 400 pounds, just like the 265. The stand is heavier than the 265 stand. It's much more dense. There's a lot more going on inside of it, which you will see. So yeah, we're gonna get this started in just a moment, and I'm going to try not to lose my mind between now and then. And wish me luck.
Perfect.
I considered many other places in the house, but I don't think anything is going to be able to hold the 3,000 pounds up. So that was heavy. Not too bad. We actually did quite well. I took the doors and everything off, as you can see, so we can maneuver it. I like the stand in here. The gray looks awesome. But now is the hard part. Now is the glass. The glass is heavy. I'm probably gonna try to take the top off the tank and some other stuff just to make it a little less likely that we damage anything on the way down. Here we go. On a scale of 1 to brutal, I was getting up there. Well, that was pretty hard. I mean, even with four of us working pretty diligently, that was a rough go. But it is a lot of really thick glass, so I kind of expected that. Now, I'm gonna just, get everything back together, and then I can move on to telling you all about this beautiful tank. Whew! So now that it's in place, let me walk you through this aquarium, tell you all the features I really like about it, and ultimately why I picked the Aquatlantis Fusion 200x70 to be my Mega Build 2.0. So to start off, I'm sure just staring at it, you can see it's a really attractive tank. I love how the canopy is very low profile. I love that the inserts on the aluminum frame around the top of the tank and the bottom of the tank match the stand. I also absolutely love that the stand is flush with the aquarium, that the doors have a mild recess and as well are flush. The stand has push openers on the doors, which are soft closing basically, so it makes it a lot easier to work with without slamming things around down there. I'm also completely in love with the entire line of colors that Aquatlantis makes available for the Fusion series of tanks. I had a really hard time choosing because there are some really nice various wood grain colors. There were three different, and the studio down here is gray. There were three different gray colors I could have picked from a very light kind of whitish gray to a darker gray. And then what was kind of in the middle was this cement look gray, which I thought looked absolutely awesome. Like I loved it. So that's what I ended up with, but it was a tough choice. The other nice thing about their whole line, the whole Aquatlantis line of Fusion aquariums, is that they come in as small as basically a 30-gallon aquarium, I believe it is, and all the way up to this beast here, which measures side to side. It's a little bit smaller dimension-wise, as far as length goes, than the last mega build, but it's bigger in volume. So the tank's about 79 inches roughly side to side. Then front to back, it's about 27 inches. And from top to bottom, the usable part of the aquarium that will have water in it is about 27 inches. It's taller than that with the included canopy that's attached to the tank there. But I'm not going to include that in the dimension because the workable space is basically 79 by 27 by 27. And that's the important part. The reason I really like those dimensions, even though, like I said, it's a little bit shorter than the last mega build that I did, the depth front to back matching the depth in terms of height is going to lend really well to some pretty awesome aquascaping. The tank is not taller than it is deep front to back, which I've always found just makes it a lot easier to get that beautiful depth and dimension when you're aquascaping. So you're not trying to force that kind of perspective. You have the depth to work with, so you can just play around with it rather than trying to emulate depth that may or may not actually be there. I also love the aesthetic of having the aluminum top and bottom of the aquarium instead of plastic, which you normally see, or even on a rimless tank, which I considered going rimless, but this just captivated me, and I'll explain why. So the aluminum looks really, really slick. It's super robust. It makes a lot of sense structurally for a tank this size as well. The inserts look great, but I love the fact that the canopy is super, super low profile. So normally, if you cap a tank off with a canopy, you end up sticking off quite a bit. I'm sure you remember in the last build, the canopy was quite large and very heavy, and it was cumbersome to work with. There was more than one occasion where Brian actually had to help me take the canopy off of the tank because I couldn't do it on my own, just so I could work in it. With this, it's a non-issue because the panels that are on the top of the aquarium that make up the entire span of the canopy are extremely light pieces of plastic, and they feel super robust. They're obviously going to be very easy to clean because it's a plastic material, but they're super light. So I can remove each panel, which there's 3 of them up there, by hand, by myself, no problem at all. And then there's 2 aluminum rails that they hook into, and those aluminum rails, again, very light. I can just take them off on my own. So getting in and out of this tank, whether it's for maintenance or for aquascaping or for adding fish, if I want to do anything, it's going to be very easy to completely remove the canopy even by myself. I also love the fact that they give you the option to have recessed LED lighting built into the aluminum panels that are on the top. Now, I'll go more into the lighting on the lighting episode of this Mega Build series, but I will say it's a super crisp white light. I've only got 2 of the strips turned on now because if I turn on all 4 of them, it blows out the image on the camera because it is crazy bright. So I love that that's up there. It makes a lot of sense to me just in terms of aesthetics. When you walk into the room and you're looking at the tank, it's just a beautiful aquarium. It's already lit, and there's nothing kind of hanging off of it or out of it. All right, so let's talk about build quality because that's super important. Aesthetics and all are great, but how well built an aquarium is going to have a lot to do with the longevity of the tank and how much you can trust it's sitting there with that much water in it, which when you're dealing with big tanks like this, super important to me. Now, my first experience with an Aquatlantis tank, which kind of pointed me in the direction of Aquatlantis to start with, was a smaller, all-in-one kind of saltwater setup. It was a rimless tank sitting atop a white stand. It was flush, and that setup came with a sump and everything, overflow system, and it just screamed well thought out and well put together, and I really enjoyed setting the tank up. And I kind of thought from that point, okay, let's see what rimless tanks are available in larger sizes, and that's when I hit their website and started looking around the Fusion series, which led me to this bad boy. Now, they do a lot of things right. Number one, the glass on this tank is very, very thick. It is 9/16 inches thick. It's heavy. It's got extremely heavy Euro bracing using glass as well inside of the tank. It's not just being braced by the aluminum frame, which structurally, I really like the idea of using aluminum. It's strong, it's light, it makes sense. It's a better option than plastic, but that Euro bracing, I cannot imagine this thing moving anywhere. It's not gonna bow. my mind would be blown apart. If it bowed, my head would bow, is what I'm trying to say. So the silicone looks like it was applied very cleanly, very well, liberally where it needs to be, and I don't see any kind of blemishes or deformities in the silicone anywhere. I don't see any air pockets or bubbles or lifting, none of it. It looks really slick, really well applied, which is super important since that is what's keeping the panels together ultimately, as well as obviously the bracing, and it's what prevents the tank from leaking. So a good silicone job is something that is super important that you should definitely be looking for, especially when you're dealing with big, heavy, large volume aquariums like this. The last thing you want is for something to leak, and I am crazy confident that this tank is not going to do that, which makes me happy because I want this tank to be here for a while. You know, I'm not planning for it to go anywhere. Who would want to bring this beast into a basement and expect it to leave anytime soon? Not me. I'll probably just leave it here forever. Future civilizations will find this aquarium intact. It's just filled with sand and like fossilized fish. So let's talk a bit about the stand. It is made from incredibly thick panels of material. You can see here, this is a basically consistent thickness all the way to the back, same with the sides and the bottom. That is not recessed inside. That is literally the thickness of the outside of the stand. The doors are also nice and thick, but the one thing I really want to take note of is that all of the seams where the wrap on the stand is applied are sealed off. You cannot see into them. It doesn't look like a line where things are connecting because they weren't then glued over. The stand looks like it was very intentionally sealed in every way possible to make sure that no water can get to the wood that's underneath this exterior coating. Looks like some sort of veneer. I really like it. The stand, like I said before, very well thought out. On the sides here in the stand, you've got one on each end. It's a big hollow compartment that goes all the way to the back of the stand. And right at the back, at the top of the stand, there is a cutout so that you can route whatever equipment and tubing that you need to go up to the aquarium right at the back of the stand. Then up in the canopy, there's a port for those tubes and or equipment and or cords to go through as well. So basically this tank is designed for your filtration to be on the ends of the aquarium. And obviously I would say it's designed for canister filtration or for an internal filter. That's made obvious by the fact that there's no way you can hang a hang-on filter on the outside of the tank. It's just not meant for that. When you're dealing with a tank this big, hang-on filters really aren't going to do a lot for you anyways. So I'm sure you could probably deduce before we even get to the filter episode what I'm going to be using on this. But that said, I love the fact that the stand was designed with that in mind. It just makes it a lot easier. I'm not poking any holes in the stand. The stand isn't completely open in the back, which means there's more structural integrity because that back panel is one big long piece. And then in the center here, you've got two doors that open up to a really nice cubby style shelving compartment. So you've got 4 separate super deep cubbies that you could put a ton of material in. I could easily squeeze in a whole roll of filter floss and basically everything I'm gonna need to keep the tank running right under the stand. I like that because I don't wanna see that stuff around the room. The whole point of this room is to look beautiful with many aquariums and just looking slick, and everything in the tank is what's taking your attention, and you know, the gorgeous cabinetry outside. You don't want to see just like test kits and food and stuff hanging around the tank. So I absolutely love how they did that. I actually love that it's been partitioned off into 4 separate cubbies, and I like the fact that, again, it's a structural part of the stand. Those panels don't come out. They're all screwed together, and the stand comes already put together in one piece, so I didn't have to do any of that. It came together, it's ready to rock, and it is solid. It is almost as heavy as the aquarium. That's not usually the case when it comes to stands. Normally the stand is quite a bit lighter. Either it's made from pine or particle board, and there just isn't as much material. Aquatlantis made an insanely heavy and well-built stand for this tank, which again just puts my mind at ease. That's something that's going to make me feel better about having a gigantic aquarium down here in my home. So something else I can sincerely appreciate is that the lid has a feeding door in it, so I can just feed right here. I don't have to lift the entire canopy open just to put some food in. That's pretty well thought out. Ultimately, this tank looks incredible. And I'm sure with that laundry list of reasons, it's pretty easy to see why I decided to choose this tank for the next mega build as opposed to something else. I'm super excited for it, and I think this is going to be great. And like with all aquariums, especially gigantic ones, I'm going to make sure that it's level, because if it's not, that could be disastrous. Remember what I had to go through with the last one? I'm hoping I don't have to do that kind of thing again. Hiya. I think we're looking okay side to side here. I think we're looking good. Now that might be workable. I'm actually gonna get a smaller level and stick it on the bottom pane of glass in the aquarium and see how close to level we are there. That's workable, but I'd like to see that bubble perfect. So unlike the last series, I'm gonna give you guys an idea of what I'm doing with this tank. And I'm sure some of you are like, African cichlids, and some other people are probably like, gigantic puffers, and somebody else is probably like, mermaids. They don't exist. So there is a species of fish that I personally have never kept. Coincidentally, you guys ask me about it pretty often, especially during live Q and A's. So I figure it's about time that I get my hands dirty with this fish and learn a little bit about them beyond just, what I read. I think hands-on, care for an animal teaches you more about them than just conceptual stuff reading them. So without further ado, I'm going to be getting, I don't even want to say it, I'm going to get discus. I've never kept discus. I find them super intimidating. I know they're a higher maintenance fish. They require a lot of water changes, which kind of leads me to how I'm going to be running this system. Now, I'm on a well, and my well water has quite a bit of tannins and iron in it, which tints it a yellowish color, sometimes even pushing towards orange, especially in the spring and the fall when there's a lot of rainfall here in Nova Scotia. A lot more tannins and stuff ends up in my well. So I think the easiest way for me to combat that, instead of over-filtering the water, doing RODI, and then having to use replenish to put some carbonate hardness back in, is just to run the tank as a black water system. So I'll intentionally also be adding tannins through some of the hardscape. I think I'm going to go with some driftwood and stuff like that, as well as through tannin products that will add tannins to the water, maybe even some litter on the bottom of the tank, to make it a black water system. That way, when I do those water changes, my well water, which is naturally a little bit tinted, is going to just, add to the system. It's not going to be detracting from it by yellowing the water when I do a water change or forcing me to do crazy things just to make sure that the water looks pristine. So yeah, with that, I will probably also be doing a heavier aquascape on this side, tapering off to that side, since that's a viewing panel as well. It's a pretty big piece of glass. And I'm thinking maybe we do a little bit of easy live plants that comes, down throughout the system. And then, once I get to this end, we'll keep it a little bit more bare so that we can see easily into that side of the tank. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm not 100% how I'm going to do any of the actual decorating yet, but there's an episode for that in the future where I get to talk about it. So I have lots of time to think, because I need to think. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of our Aquatlantis Fusion 200 Mega Build. It's going to be crazy. I'm super excited for my very first discus tank. Nervous, but excited. If you have any questions, drop those down in the comment section below. You can also reach out to us on social media like Facebook. We can get at you there. If you'd like to, we have an Instagram full of aquatic eye candy for you, so you can check that out. And please don't forget to subscribe to this wonderful channel of ours where we're going to be doing all kinds of crazy aquatic goodness, like this build. We've got other builds coming. It's going to be nuts, and I'd hate for you to miss anything. So yeah, join me so we can keep on tanking with gigantic, mega buildy goodness of the discus variety. Oh my, crazy excited. What am I gonna do for filtration? I don't know.